Deep beneath the earth, in a realm where shadows stretch endlessly and the air hums with the whispers of the dead, lies Diyu, the Chinese underworld. Here, the damned wander through labyrinths of fire and ice, their sins etched into the very walls around them. But this terrifying domain isn't ruled by chaos, it's governed with ironclad precision by one of the most formidable figures in all of mythology, Yan Wang, the king of hell and god of death. Imagine a judge so relentless, so exacting, that even the mightiest emperors trembled at the mere mention of his name. This is no ordinary deity. Yan Wang holds the power to weigh every soul, to decide their fate in the afterlife, and to mete out punishments so horrifying they've chilled spines for centuries. What makes Yan Wang so fascinating isn't just his fearsome reputation, it's how deeply his legend is woven into the fabric of Chinese culture. From ancient dynasties to modern-day temples, his influence stretches across time, shaping beliefs about justice, morality, and what awaits us beyond death. Think about it, in a world where emperors claimed divine right, where ancestors were worshipped as guardians, Yan Wang stood as the ultimate equalizer. No wealth, no power, no clever words could sway his judgment. His court was the one place where every soul, from the lowest peasant to the highest ruler, faced the same unflinching scrutiny. But who was Yan Wang really? How did a figure so steeped in terror also become a symbol of cosmic balance? And why do stories of his underworld still captivate us today? This isn't just a tale of fire and brimstone, it's a window into how ancient China grappled with life's biggest questions. What does it mean to be good? What happens when we die, and is justice truly blind? As we journey deeper into the mysteries of Yan Wang's realm, you'll discover how his myth isn't just about punishment, it's about the hope for redemption, the weight of our choices, and the timeless human quest for meaning in the face of the unknown. So take a step closer, because the secrets of Diyu are about to unfold. The legend of Yan Wang doesn't begin in the darkened halls of Diyu. It starts centuries earlier on the windswept plains of ancient India. Long before his name echoed through Chinese temples, he was known as Yama, the Hindu god of death, a figure who first appeared in the Rig Veda over 3,000 years ago. Yama wasn't just a fearsome judge of the dead. He was also a compassionate guide, the first mortal to die and blaze a trail to the afterlife. But as Buddhism spread eastward along the Silk Road, Yama's story began to transform. Monks carried his tales into China, where they collided with local beliefs, merging with Taoist visions of the underworld and Confucian ideals of moral order. By the Tang dynasty, this fusion was complete. Yan Wang emerged as something entirely new, a deity molded by China's spiritual landscape. Where Yama had been one of many judges in Hindu texts, Yan Wang became the supreme ruler of the 10 courts of hell, his authority absolute. Taoist rituals embraced him as a celestial bureaucrat, meticulously recording sins in ledgers, while Buddhist teachings painted him as a stern but fair enforcer of karma. Even Confucianism left its mark. Yan Wang's court mirrored the imperial bureaucracy, reflecting the rigid hierarchy of Chinese society. What's fascinating is how these influences didn't just coexist, they layered upon one another, creating a figure far richer than his origins. In Hindu myths, Yama's judgments were often final, but in Chinese tradition, Yan Wang's hells became places of purification. Souls weren't just punished, they were given chances to atone, their suffering a path to eventual rebirth. This shift reveals a core difference in how these cultures viewed justice. India's Yama emphasized cosmic balance, while China's Yan Wang embodied societal harmony, a ruler who didn't just punish wrongdoing but reinforced the moral fabric of the living world. Temples across China still bear witness to this evolution. In some, Yan Wang is depicted with the serene calm of a Buddha, his eyes closed in meditation. In others, he glares like a wrathful Taoist general clutching the dreaded register of life and death. Even his name tells a story. Yan means strict or solemn, a nod to his unyielding justice, while Wang, king, leaves no doubt about his sovereignty. This wasn't just a borrowed god, this was a deity reinvented, his mythology tailored to answer the deepest questions of Chinese philosophy. How should a society govern itself? What happens when power goes unchecked, and who holds even the mightiest accountable? The journey from Yama to Yan Wang is more than a tale of cultural adaptation. It's a mirror held up to the values that shaped China itself. As Buddhism intertwined with indigenous beliefs, Yan Wang became a bridge between worlds, his legend a testament to the way myths evolve, carrying the hopes, fears, and ideals of those who retell them. Yan Wang's throne sits at the heart of Diyu, a place where the echoes of countless souls form the very foundation of his power. As the supreme judge of the dead, his authority is absolute, yet his role is far more intricate than mere punishment. Picture a celestial courtroom where every life is laid bare, where deeds are weighed with scales that never falter. Yan Wang doesn't just pass sentence, he reads the ledger of existence itself, each line a record of choices made in the world above. The 10 courts of hell stretch beneath him like branches of an unfathomable tree, each presided over by lesser judges but all answering to his command. In the first court, souls are greeted and their sins tallied. By the 10th, those who have endured their punishments emerge, cleansed and ready for rebirth. Yan Wang's gaze follows them all, ensuring no soul escapes justice, yet no soul suffers beyond what their actions demand. His judgments aren't arbitrary, they're meticulous, calibrated to the finest detail. A corrupt official who abused power might find himself drowning in a river of molten gold. A liar could have his tongue torn out repeatedly, only for it to regrow before the next agonizing cycle. Yet even these torments serve a purpose beyond retribution. They're lessons etched in pain, designed to purify the soul before its next incarnation. What's striking is how closely his system mirrors Confucian ideals of societal order. Just as the emperor governed the living, Yan Wang rules the dead with the same unshakable hierarchy. His underworld isn't chaotic, it's a bureaucracy of damnation where clerks record sins, runners deliver sentences, and every punishment fits the crime with terrifying precision. Even the tools of his realm reflect this. The Mirror of Retribution shows souls the consequences of their actions, while the Book of Life and Death leaves no deed unaccounted for. Yet for all his severity, Yan Wang isn't without mercy. Folktales whisper of souls who, through genuine remorse or extraordinary virtue, earn his rare clemency. In one story, a grieving son volunteers to take his mother's punishment, and Yan Wang, moved by such filial piety, reduces her sentence. These glimpses of compassion reveal a deeper truth. His judgments aren't just about balancing cosmic scales. They're about shaping souls for a better next life, ensuring the wheel of rebirth turns smoothly. This duality, unyielding justice tempered with the possibility of redemption, is what makes Yan Wang so enduring in Chinese thought. He isn't just a fearsome god, he's the embodiment of an entire philosophy, one where actions have inescapable consequences, but where transformation is always within reach. To stand before him is to confront the sum of one's life, stripped bare of excuses or pretenses, and in that brutal honesty lies the hope for something greater, a chance to rise again, wiser than before. The 10 courts of hell aren't just layers of punishment, they're a meticulously organized bureaucracy of the afterlife, each with its own purpose, its own king, and its own brand of divine reckoning. Imagine a vast, shadowy government building where souls move from office to office, each stop revealing another facet of their mortal sins. At the very top stands Yan Wang, the supreme ruler, overseeing this labyrinth of judgment like an unshakable emperor. But beneath him, the other 9 kings reign over their own domains, each specializing in a different form of justice. the first court is where every soul begins its journey, dragged before King Qin Guang to hear the charges against them. Here, the Mirror of Retribution reflects every misdeed, large and small. No excuses, no lies. Those deemed virtuous might bypass the horrors below, ascending straight to paradise. But for most, this is just the beginning. The second court, ruled by King Chu Jiang, awaits those guilty of violence, murderers, warlords, anyone who spilled blood without remorse. Their punishment, a plunge into the pool of blood where they drown endlessly in the very suffering they inflicted. By the third court, the machinery of justice grows even more precise. King Song Dai presides over fraudsters and corrupt officials, forcing them to climb a mountain of knives, their feet shredded with every step, a fitting fate for those who climbed over others in life. Meanwhile, the fourth court's King Wu Guan specializes in punishing greed. Hoarders of wealth find themselves crushed under mountains of gold coins, their lungs filling with molten metal, a brutal reminder that no treasure follows you into death. Halfway through, the fifth court shifts focus. King Yan Luo, often confused with Yan Wang himself, deals with those who abused power tyrants and crooked judges. Their sentences are poetic, they're flayed alive, their skin turned into scrolls documenting their crimes. Then comes the sixth court, where King Bian Cheng targets hypocrisy. False moralists and deceitful clergy face the hell of tongue ripping, their organs regrowing only to be torn out again. The lower courts grow even grimmer. King Tai Shan's seventh court punishes disrespect toward parents, ancestors, or the gods. Souls are fed through stone mills, ground into pulp before reforming to endure it anew. In the eighth court, King Dushi handles the irredeemably lazy, those who squandered their lives. They're trapped in a marketplace where they must labor eternally, yet never earn a single coin. Near the end, the ninth court's King Ping Deng condemns those who broke familial bonds, abandoning children, betraying spouses. Their punishment, an endless fall through darkness, never touching ground, just as they left others feeling untethered in life. Finally, the 10th court, overseen by King Zhuanlan, offers a sliver of hope. Here, souls who have endured their punishments are cleansed, their memories wiped and sent toward rebirth. Even Yan Wang's ruthless system has an end point, not eternal damnation, but a chance to begin again. This hierarchy isn't random, it reflects the core values of Chinese cosmology. Each court reinforces a societal ideal: filial piety, honesty, humility. The punishments aren't merely cruel, they're pedagogical, designed to scour away flaws before the next incarnation. And while Yan Wang's authority looms over all, the 10 kings together form a balanced system, one where no sin goes unanswered, but no soul is denied the possibility of redemption. The moment a soul steps into the first court of hell, the air itself seems to hold its breath. This is where the journey through Diyu truly begins, under the piercing gaze of King Qin Guang, the stern but fair judge who determines the destiny of every spirit that crosses his threshold. Unlike the fiery torments deeper in the underworld, the first court is stark and orderly, more like a celestial tribunal than a place of suffering. Yet its simplicity belies its power. Here, the weight of an entire lifetime is measured in an instant. King Qin Guang sits atop a towering dais, flanked by scribes clutching scrolls that glow with an eerie light, the register of life and death, where every action, every hidden sin, is recorded in unforgiving detail. Before him stands the soul, stripped of all earthly pretenses, forced to confront the unvarnished truth of their existence. The Mirror of Retribution looms nearby, its surface swirling with scenes from the soul's past. There's no denying what it shows: the kindnesses left undone, the cruelties indulged, the debts unpaid. Even the most hardened hearts tremble at this moment, for the mirror reflects not just deeds but intentions, the secret thoughts no one else ever saw. But the first court isn't merely about condemnation. King Qin Guang's role is that of a cosmic gatekeeper, sorting souls with dispassionate precision. Those whose lives were marked by virtue might find themselves escorted to the blissful realms of the immortals, bypassing the horrors below entirely. For others, the path forks according to their sins. Petty thieves and minor wrongdoers might face brief, symbolic punishments before reincarnation. The truly wicked, however, are handed over to the lower courts, where the severity of their torments escalates in grim proportion to their crimes. What makes this court so fascinating is its blend of bureaucratic efficiency and profound moral weight. The proceedings feel almost like a divine audit, no theatrics, no unnecessary cruelty, just the cold, clear arithmetic of karma. Yet underlying it all is a philosophy deeply rooted in Chinese thought, that justice is not arbitrary, that every action has consequences, and that even in death there's an unshakable logic to the universe. King Qin Guang's judgments aren't just punishments, they're the first step in a soul's education, a chance to reckon with the past before moving toward whatever comes next. Stories from folklore paint him as neither cruel nor lenient, but inexorably just. In one tale, a corrupt magistrate arrives in the first court, confident his wealth and connections will save him, only to watch in horror as the mirror replays his bribery and exploitation in vivid detail. In another, a humble farmer who lived selflessly is surprised to hear King Qin Guang's voice soften, commending his quiet goodness before guiding him toward the gardens of the blessed. These accounts reinforce a universal truth. In Diyu, as in life, no one can hide from who they truly were. The first court's brilliance lies in its simplicity. No elaborate tortures, no fiery rhetoric, just the undeniable weight of truth. It's a reminder that the most terrifying judgment isn't always the most dramatic. Sometimes it's the quiet moment when a soul must finally face itself. And for those who pass through King Qin Guang's domain, whether toward reward or retribution, one lesson is seared into them forever. In the end, the harshest judge we ever face is the reflection we've spent a lifetime trying to avoid. Passing from the cold scrutiny of the first court, souls condemned for theft and deceit descend into a realm where justice takes on a visceral, almost poetic form. The second court of hell, ruled by the formidable King Chu Jiong, specializes in crimes that fracture trust, the betrayals, the stolen treasures, the lies that unravel lives. Here, the punishments aren't just painful, they're profound reflections of the sins themselves, designed to sear the lesson into the very essence of the soul. At the heart of this court lies the infamous pool of blood, a vast, churning expanse where thieves and swindlers are submerged repeatedly, their screams muffled by the thick, metallic liquid. But this isn't mere drowning. The pool's depths are lined with jagged hooks that tear at flesh with each descent, mirroring the way stolen goods once ripped through the fabric of others' lives. A merchant who hoarded grain during a famine might find himself swallowing the very sustenance he denied, only for it to curdle into poison in his throat. A pickpocket who preyed on the vulnerable could spend centuries with hands bound in molten chains, fingers blistering and reforming in an endless cycle, a stark reminder of how greed turns comfort into torment. Yet King Chu Jiong's creativity doesn't end there. For those who lied under oath or manipulated the truth, the court of mirrors awaits. Walls of polished brass stretch endlessly, each surface distorting to magnify the liar's face into grotesque parodies of their deceptions. The air hums with whispered confessions, forcing the soul to relive every falsehood while their tongue splits and regrows over and over. In one chilling folktale, a corrupt scribe who falsified land records spends eternity watching his own reflection crumble like the deeds he forged, his screams echoing as his features melt into the faces of those he ruined. What makes this court particularly haunting is its emphasis on symmetry. A nobleman who exploited tenants might be flayed alive, his skin stretched into scrolls detailing his cruelty. A fraudster who sold counterfeit medicine could find himself choking on the very herbs he diluted, their healing properties reversed to burn like acid. Even the architecture reinforces the theme. Bridges arching over the second court are carved with scenes of honest labor, a taunting contrast to the suffering below. But amid the horror, there's a grim logic. King Chu Jiong's punishments aren't arbitrary. They're calibrated to expose the hollowness at the core of each sin. A thief who stole jewels might spend lifetimes sorting worthless pebbles from a mountain of gravel, his fingers bleeding as he learns the true weight of what he took. A perjurer could be forced to speak nothing but unbearable truths, each word scraping his throat raw. The message is clear. In Diyu, every deception unravels, every stolen moment is repaid, and every betrayal boomerangs back with perfect, unforgiving precision. Stories from Chinese opera and village lore often depict the second court as a place where arrogance shatters. Wealthy landowners who thought themselves above reproach wail as their golden robes turn to chains. Clever con artists, once so proud of their schemes, unravel like the threads of their own lies. Even the most brazen souls leave King Chu Jiong's domain humbled, their suffering a fire that burns away illusion. It's a reminder that in the underworld's economy, no debt goes unsettled, and the price of dishonesty is paid in the currency of the soul itself. The third court of hell is where deception meets its reckoning, a domain ruled by King Song Dai, whose very presence makes liars tremble. Unlike the brute force of the second court, this realm specializes in a more insidious corruption. The twisting of truth, the artful lies that poison trust and rot societies from within. Here, souls who thought themselves clever in life face punishments that strip away every illusion, forcing them to confront the destruction they sowed. At the center of it all looms the Mirror of Retribution, a towering slab of polished obsidian that doesn't just reflect, it reveals. When a soul stands before it, the surface ripples like dark water, showing not just their crimes but the cascading consequences of their deceit. A corrupt official watches as his false verdicts unravel entire families. A merchant who diluted medicines sees children withering from his greed. The mirror doesn't allow excuses or half-truths. It replays every whispered lie, every forged document, every betrayal with unbearable clarity. And King Song Dai watches, his expression unreadable as the soul's own guilt becomes their prosecutor. But the mirror is only the beginning. Those who manipulated others for gain face the mountain of knives, a sheer cliff of razored blades they must climb barefoot, their flesh parting with each step. The higher they ascend, the heavier their sins weigh, until the mountain seems to grow beneath them, an impossible ascent mirroring the way their lies once stacked upon one another. Folktales speak of a crooked moneylender who spent 3 centuries on that slope, his feet forever healing only to be shredded anew, as if the mountain itself remembered every coin he'd swindled. For fraudsters who hid behind elaborate facades, King Song Dai reserves a particularly cruel fate, the illusion of truth. Trapped in endless hallways of smoke and mirrors, they're chased by faceless figures demanding honesty, yet every word they speak twists into another lie. The air itself seems to thicken with their falsehoods, choking them with the very deceit they once wielded so easily. In one chilling opera, a forger who'd sold fake deeds is forced to sign his name endlessly on scrolls that burst into flame, each signature a fleeting moment of control before it's ripped away. What makes this court so unnerving isn't just the brutality of its punishments, but their surgical precision. King Song Dai doesn't deal in random torment. His horrors are tailored to unravel the liar's greatest weapon, their ability to distort reality. A false witness might find their tongue replaced with a serpent that whispers their crimes back to them. A counterfeiter could spend eons trying to assemble a puzzle with pieces that dissolve at the touch, a metaphor for the fragile illusions they once peddled. Even the architecture reinforces the theme. Bridges in this court are made of glass, reminding souls that in death, transparency is inescapable. Yet hidden in this cruelty is a twisted mercy. Unlike the eternal damnation of Western hells, King Song Dai's realm operates on the belief that even the most corrupted soul can learn. The pain isn't just punishment, it's purification, a way to burn away the layers of deceit until nothing but raw truth remains. By the time souls stagger out of the third court, they carry a visceral understanding. Lies aren't just words, they're fractures in the fabric of trust, and in the underworld, every crack must be sealed with the weight of genuine remorse. King Song Dai's verdicts ensure that by their next life, these souls will flinch at even the whitest lie, their bodies remembering what their minds might try to forget. If the second court terrifies thieves and the third unravels liars, then the fourth court of hell is where the mighty fall, where those who wielded power without conscience finally meet their reckoning. Ruled by King Wu Guan, this realm specializes in judgment for those who corrupted authority, from petty bureaucrats who sold favors to emperors who bathed their kingdoms in blood. The air here hums with the groans of officials who once thought themselves untouchable, now trapped in a nightmare of poetic justice. Take the infamous hell of the Hollow Mountain, where corrupt magistrates and negligent leaders are forced to push boulders up a slope that grows steeper with every step. The weight isn't just physical, it's the accumulated suffering of those they ignored or exploited. A tax collector who squeezed peasants dry might find his burden doubling with each heave, the rocks groaning like starving families. A general who abandoned his troops could spend centuries dragging a wagon of shattered armor, the clattering metal echoing with the screams of soldiers left to die. But King Wu Guan's creativity doesn't end there. For embezzlers and grafters, there's the vault of molten coin, a cavern where gold melts into liquid fire, poured endlessly into their gaping mouths. The irony is brutal. Those who hoarded wealth now drown in it, their insides scorched by the very treasure they coveted. One Ming dynasty folktale tells of a prefect who stole famine relief funds. In death, he's cursed to count mountains of grain that crumble to ash in his hands, a never-ending reminder of the sustenance he denied the hungry. Yet the fourth court's most chilling punishment is reserved for tyrants. The Palace of Mirrors traps them in an endless hall of reflections, where every surface shows their victims' faces not as they appeared in life, but as they were in their final moments. A cruel dowager empress who poisoned her rivals might find herself surrounded by their ghostly visages, their whispers detailing every drop of venom she administered. The mirrors don't allow escape or denial. They force the soul to relive each act of cruelty from the perspective of the suffering they caused. What makes King Wu Guan's domain so unsettling is how meticulously it mirrors real-world consequences. A neglectful dock inspector whose bribes led to a sunken ferry spends eternity trapped in a sinking iron cage. A judge who took bribes to fix trials finds himself strapped to a revolving wheel. His verdicts read back to him in the voices of the innocents he condemned. Even the architecture reinforces the lesson. Bridges here are made of broken promises, their planks cracking beneath the feet of those who swore oaths they never meant to keep. This isn't just about retribution, it's about revelation. King Wu Guan forces the powerful to confront what they spent their lives avoiding, the human cost of their actions. By the time souls stagger out of the fourth court, they carry an unshakable truth that authority isn't a privilege, but a responsibility, and in the next life, they'll remember the weight of that burden in their very bones. For in Diyu, no crown protects its wearer, no title deflects judgment, and every abuse of power is repaid with terrifying precision. Among the 10 courts of hell, none stirs more confusion or dread than the fifth, ruled by a figure whose name echoes through Chinese mythology like a death knell, King Yan Luo. To the uninitiated, this might sound identical to Yan Wang himself, and that's no accident. The titles blur deliberately, a nod to the king's dual role as both supreme ruler of Diyu and hands-on judge of its most brutal offenders. While Yan Wang oversees the underworld's grand design, King Yan Luo rolls up his sleeves in the fifth court, personally ensuring those guilty of unfathomable crimes face justice as unrelenting as their sins. This court isn't for petty thieves or opportunistic liars. King Yan reserves his attention for souls stained with atrocities, serial murderers, betrayers of sacred bonds, perpetrators of genocide. The punishments here are visceral, almost theatrical in their symbolism. A warlord who reveled in slaughter might find himself strapped to a revolving wheel of blades, his flesh flayed into ribbons that regenerate only to be torn away anew. A poisoner who slipped toxins into banquets could spend centuries vomiting serpents, each one coiling back into his throat to repeat the cycle. Even the court's architecture reflects its purpose. Bridges here are built from the bones of the unavenged, their hollow sockets seeming to watch every soul that crosses. What makes this court unique isn't just its severity, but its intimacy. While other kings delegate to scribes and bailiffs, King Yan often interrogates souls personally, his voice booming through the cavernous hall like thunder. Folktales describe how he wields the brush of condemnation, a tool that doesn't just record sins but etches them into the offender's skin, glowing characters that pulse with every heartbeat. In one harrowing account, a traitor who sold his city to invaders begs for mercy, only for Yan to dip his brush in molten copper, scorching each betrayal onto the man's chest in searing detail. Yet amid the horror, there's a twisted logic to the Fifth Court's brutality. Each punishment isn't merely retributive, it's a dark mirror of the crime itself. A necromancer who desecrated graves might be buried alive in a field of restless corpses, their clawed hands dragging him deeper whenever he nears the surface. A corrupt priest who exploited devotees could find himself preaching to an audience of demons, their laughter drowning out his hollow sermons. Even the court's infamous hell of dismemberment operates on this principle. Limbs severed and reattached in grotesque configurations, a literal dismantling of the ego that once believed itself above consequence. The confusion between Yan Wang and Yan isn't just linguistic, it's theological. Some scholars argue they're two aspects of the same entity, like a judge who both oversees the courthouse and presides over its highest-profile trials. Others insist Yan is a distinct figure, a grim specialist summoned for cases requiring his particular brand of justice. Temple murals often depict him with a key difference. Where Yan Wang's robes shimmer with celestial authority, Yan are splattered with blood, his sleeves rolled up as if fresh from the execution grounds. This duality reveals something profound about Chinese cosmology. Even in the afterlife, there's no one-size-fits-all justice. The underworld makes room for both the cosmic administrator and the hands-on tormentor, recognizing that some evils demand not just punishment, but a performance of cosmic reckoning, one where the guilty aren't just sentenced, but confronted with the full, unfiltered weight of what they've done. King Yan court ensures that in the end, even the most monstrous souls will kneel before the truth they spent a lifetime fleeing. The Sixth Court of Hell is where tradition strikes back, where souls who scorned filial piety or spat on ancestral rites face the wrath of King Bian Cheng, a judge whose punishments dissect the very foundations of Chinese society. While earlier courts dealt with crimes against individuals or the state, this realm targets something far more sacred, the bonds that tether generations together. Picture a cavernous hall lined with ancestral tablets, their inscriptions glowing faintly as if charged with centuries of silent reproach. Here, King Bian Cheng presides not just as a dispenser of justice, but as the enforcer of a cultural contract older than empires themselves. Disrespect toward elders might sound like a minor sin to modern ears, but in Confucian philosophy, it's akin to pulling a thread from the tapestry of cosmic order. The Sixth Court's Torahs reflect this gravity. Ungrateful children who abandoned aging parents find themselves trapped in the chamber of 1,000 steps, a staircase that crumbles beneath their feet, forcing them to crawl upward on broken knees while phantom voices recite every harsh word they ever hurled at their mothers or fathers. A neglectful son who left his ancestors' graves untended might spend eternity digging in a field of ash, his fingers bleeding as he searches for bones that always slip just beyond reach. Even the architecture reinforces the lesson. Bridges here are carved with scenes of familial harmony, their beauty taunting those who severed such bonds in life. The punishments grow more inventive for those who violated death, writes the intricate rituals meant to honor the departed. A wealthy merchant who skimped on his father's funeral could find himself dressed in paper mourning clothes that ignite slowly, burning without consuming him, while wailing ghosts circle like hungry crows. In one haunting folktale, a scholar who mocked his clan's ancestral worship is forced to recite genealogies backward for centuries, his tongue swelling with each mistake until he can name every forebear back to the Zhou dynasty. King Bian Cheng's genius lies in how his torments weaponize memory. The pit of forgotten names traps souls who erased their lineage, drowning them in a river of ink while shadowy figures whisper, "Who are you?" A question they can never answer without acknowledging the ancestors they erased. For those who sold family heirlooms or squandered inheritances, there's the vault of shattered legacies, a maze where every broken vase or torn painting reforms just long enough to remind them of what they destroyed. This court isn't just about pain, it's about pedagogy. King Bian Cheng forces souls to relive the consequences of their choices from the perspective of those they wronged. A daughter-in-law who abused her husband's parents might experience childbirth 1,000 times, each labor ending with the infant transforming into a scorned elder. A rebel who defied clan traditions could be stitched into the skin of his own ancestors, feeling their disappointment pulse through his veins like liquid shame. What makes the Sixth Court so chilling isn't its brutality, but its intimacy. These punishments don't just target the body, they expose the hollowness of a life untethered from its roots. By the time souls leave King Bian Cheng's domain, they carry an unshakable truth. In Chinese cosmology, to dishonor your past is to fracture your future. And in Diyu's economy of souls, no debt cuts deeper than the one owed to those who came before. The Seventh Court of Hell rises like an obsidian fortress beneath the shadow of its celestial counterpart, Mount Tai, one of China's 5 sacred peaks. This is the domain of King Tai Shan, a judge whose very essence is intertwined with the mountain's dual nature, a beacon of spiritual ascent for the virtuous and a crushing weight of judgment for the violent. In life, pilgrims climbed Mount Tai's misty slopes to seek divine favor. In death, those who spilled blood without remorse find themselves scaling a far more terrible version, where every step mirrors the suffering they inflicted. King Tai Shan's court specializes in crimes of brutality, murderers, torturers, anyone who wielded pain as a tool. But his punishments aren't just about retribution, they're cosmic correctives designed to force souls to relive their violence from the perspective of their victims. Take the infamous stone mill, a grinding wheel where attackers are pulverized limb by limb, only to reform and endure the cycle anew. Folktales whisper of a bandit leader who spent centuries watching his own body fed into the mill, each crunch of bone echoing the cries of those he'd slaughtered. Yet even this pales beside the court's central horror, the mountain of reverse burdens. Here, souls must carry boulders carved with the names of those they harmed up a slope that grows steeper with every victim added to their tally. A mercenary who killed indiscriminately might collapse under the weight of 1,000 stones, each one groaning with the voice of a life cut short. What makes this court unique is its sacred geography. Mount Tai isn't just a backdrop, it's an active participant in judgment. In Chinese tradition, the mountain served as a bridge between heaven and earth, its peaks tallying mortal deeds for the celestial bureaucracy. King Tai Shan draws on that legacy, his verdicts infused with the mountain's ancient authority. Murals in his court depict the summit not as a place of serenity, but as a crushing force, its cliffs morphing into fists that hammer the guilty into the bedrock. The symbolism runs deeper still, where Mount Tai's physical slopes promised enlightenment to pilgrims who ascended with pure hearts. King Tai Shan's underworld version inverts that journey. Souls don't climb toward grace, they're dragged downward, their path littered with shattered weapons and the ghosts of their own rage. Even the court's bridges are fraught with meaning. Carved from black jade, they tremble beneath the feet of the violent, as if rejecting their very essence. Yet hidden in this severity is a paradox. Mount Tai was also revered as a site of renewal, where the god of the mountain granted rain and fertility. Similarly, King Tai Shan's punishments, for all their brutality, aim not to annihilate but to reconstruct. A warlord who once gloried in conquest might emerge from the stone mill with his arrogance ground to dust. A wife-beater could spend lifetimes trapped in the body of his victims, feeling every blow he delivered. By the time souls limp from the seventh court, they carry a visceral understanding. Violence isn't strength, it's a debt that must be repaid in the currency of raw, unflinching empathy. This court's power lies in its duality. Just as Mount Tai's summit touches heaven while its roots anchor the underworld, King Tai Shan's justice balances condemnation with the faintest hope of redemption. The mountain remembers every life taken, every cry silenced, but in its shadow, even the most hardened souls are forced to confront the truth that violence, in the end, consumes only its wielder. The eighth court of hell isn't about blood or blades. It's a slow, gnawing torment for those who turn their backs on one of humanity's most sacred duties, the stewardship of Earth's bounty. Ruled by King Dushi, whose name translates ominously to King of Degeneration, this realm specializes in punishing waste, not just of food but of time, resources, and the fragile gifts of nature. While other courts roar with the chaos of violence, here the horror lies in its quiet relentlessness, like hunger pangs that never cease. Picture a vast, crumbling marketplace where souls shuffle endlessly under the weight of rotting grain sacks. These aren't ordinary burdens, they're the exact amount each sinner squandered in life, magically replenishing as they decompose. A merchant who hoarded rice until it spoiled might carry a mountain of moldy chaff, his shoulders permanently stooped from the weight. A noblewoman who hosted lavish banquets where half the dishes went untouched could find herself scraping spoiled delicacies from the ground forever, her once manicured nails blackened with decay. Even the court's architecture reflects its theme. Bridges here are built from broken farming tools, their splintered handles groaning underfoot like the voices of starving peasants. Yet King Dushi's punishments cut deeper than mere physical labor. The true torture is psychological, a relentless confrontation with futility. In the fields of barren toil, souls till soil that withers the moment seeds touch earth, mocking their efforts like the resources they once wasted. The well of thirst traps drunkards and water wasters in a pit where liquid turns to sand in their mouths, each granule counting the drops they failed to cherish. One Qing dynasty folktale tells of a landlord who drained irrigation channels for his private gardens. In death, he stands chin-deep in a shrinking pond, watching his reflection age rapidly as the water evaporates. What makes this court uniquely harrowing is its cultural resonance. In agrarian China, where famine stalked generations like a shadow, waste wasn't just irresponsible, it was sacrilege. King Dushi's verdicts mirror this worldview with chilling precision. A hunter who killed for sport might spend centuries trapped in the skin of his prey, feeling each arrow strike from the animal's perspective. A logger who clear-cut sacred groves could become a human sapling, his limbs pruned by demonic gardeners whenever they grew beyond a stunted nub. Even children who threw away half-eaten buns face punishment, forced to wear those very buns as shoes, the mold seeping into their flesh with every step. But beneath the grotesque imagery lies a profound ecological lesson centuries ahead of its time. King Dushi doesn't just punish waste, he enforces a brutal mindfulness. Souls leave his court with an instinctive revulsion toward excess, their next lives often marked by compulsive frugality. Temple murals depict him holding a scale where golden grains balance against human bones, a stark reminder that in the cosmic ledger, every discarded scrap is a debt that must be repaid. This court's genius is in its inversion of values. Where the living might see abundance, King Dushi sees sacrilege. Where modern eyes might overlook a dropped grain of rice, his unblinking gaze tallies it against the soul. In a world now grappling with climate crisis and resource scarcity, the Eighth Court feels less like ancient superstition and more like a dire prophecy, a warning that the earth remembers every seed squandered, every gift taken for granted. And in the echoing halls of Diyu, no sin is too small to escape the reckoning. The Ninth Court of Hell hums with an eerie quiet, a stark contrast to the screams echoing from the realms above. Here, beneath the gaze of King Ping Deng, whose name means King of Equal Weighing, souls stand at the threshold of rebirth, their karmic debts laid bare on scales older than dynasties. This isn't just another pit of torment, it's a cosmic workshop where the raw materials of past lives are hammered into the shapes of futures yet to come. The air thrums with anticipation, thick with the scent of incense and the whispers of souls about to be unmade and remade. King Ping Deng's domain operates with the precision of a celestial scribe. While other courts focus on punishment, his specializes in transformation. Souls arrive stripped of the identities they clung to in life, no titles, no wealth, only the unvarnished weight of their actions. The process begins at the bridge of reflection, a narrow span of mist-shrouded jade where each step forces the soul to confront pivotal moments from their past existence. A farmer who cheated his neighbors might see his crops withering in phantom fields, while a scholar who burned books could watch their pages reassemble midair, their charred edges brushing his skin like accusing fingers. At the court's heart lies the pavilion of next lives, where King Ping Deng's clerks pore over ledgers detailing every soul's karmic balance. The calculations are mercilessly exact. A lifetime of petty theft might earn rebirth as a stray dog forever scavenging. A single act of extraordinary courage could tilt the scales toward a privileged next incarnation. Yet nothing is arbitrary. A cruel landlord who hoarded grain might return as a rat in his own former granary, gnawing at the stores he once denied others. A neglectful mother could be reborn as a migratory bird, her chicks falling from the nest as hers once starved. The poetry of these outcomes isn't accidental, it's karmic symmetry at its most elegant. What sets this court apart is its undercurrent of hope. King Ping Deng's judgments aren't eternal condemnations, they're recalibrations. Even the most wretched souls receive a twisted mercy, the chance to try again, to balance the scales through new deeds. Folktales speak of a tyrannical official reborn as a crippled beggar, his suffering gradually erasing his past cruelty until his next incarnation earned him a humble but honorable life as a village teacher. The lesson: no soul is irredeemable in the grand cycle of samsara just unfinished. The machinery of rebirth here is both intricate and visceral. Souls deemed ready are led to the pool of oblivion, its waters swirling with the silvery haze of forgotten memories. Drinking from it doesn't erase the soul's essence, only the scars and pride that might distort its next journey. Yet some resist. In one haunting opera, a grief-stricken poet claws at his own throat to avoid swallowing the waters, terrified of forgetting the lover he failed in life. King Ping Deng watches these struggles with neither pity nor impatience, knowing even resistance is part of the soul's reckoning. Bridges in this court tell their own stories. Unlike the jagged spans of earlier realms, these arch gracefully, their railings carved with scenes of mundane beauty: children playing, fish leaping in ponds, autumn leaves drifting. They're reminders of what awaits beyond the underworld, not just punishment or reward, but the simple, relentless opportunity to try again. As souls cross toward rebirth, their shadows flicker with the shapes of what they might become: a fox's tail, a scholar's ink-stained fingers, the wings of a mayfly dancing in sunlight. The Ninth Court's true power lies in its paradox. It's both an ending and a beginning, a place where the horrors of Diyu give way to the fragile promise of renewal. King Ping Deng doesn't just judge, he architects futures, his scales measuring not just suffering but potential. and as each soul steps into the unknown, one truth follows them like a whisper. The afterlife isn't a final verdict, it's the turning of a page, the ink still wet, the next chapter waiting to be written in deeds not yet dreamed. The 10th court of hell feels almost peaceful after the horrors of the realms above. A vast, mist-shrouded plain where the Wheel of Reincarnation looms like a celestial clockwork against the starless sky. Here, beneath the watch of King Yuan, the king of transmigration, souls stand stripped of everything but their karmic essence, poised at the threshold between endings and beginnings. Unlike the punitive kings before him, Yuan is less a judge than a cosmic ferryman, his role not to punish but to orchestrate the final, delicate transition from death back into life. The wheel itself is a mesmerizing sight, a colossal, ever-turning disk divided into 6 luminous sections, each representing a possible realm of rebirth. Gods shimmer in the highest tier, their forms wreathed in golden light. Just below, humans jostle in a crowded marketplace, their faces flickering with joy and sorrow. Further down, animals roam wild forests while hungry ghosts wail in shadowy corners. The lowest sections pulse ominously, the realm of demons where rage burns eternal, and the hells themselves where some souls cycle back for further purification. The wheel doesn't spin randomly, it moves to the rhythm of each soul's accumulated karma, guided by Yuan's unseen hand. As souls approach, attendants clad in grey robes press a cup to their lips, the draught of forgetfulness, a brew that dulls the memories of past lives without erasing their lessons. This isn't cruelty, it's necessity. To carry the full weight of one's former suffering into a new existence would make growth impossible, like trying to climb a mountain while shackled to an anchor. Yet whispers persist that fragments remain a child's inexplicable fear of fire, hinting at a death by flame in a prior incarnation, or a scholar's uncanny mastery of a language they've never studied. King Yuan's court operates with eerie efficiency. Clerks consult ledgers where lifetimes are compressed into inked columns of merits and faults. Monks chant sutras to smooth the passage between worlds, and everywhere the wheel hums a sound like wind through ancient trees, or the distant crying of newborns taking their first breath. Some souls go willingly, stepping into the light without hesitation. Others cling to their past identities, weeping as the attendants gently pry their fingers loose from phantom belongings. One folktale tells of a wealthy merchant who refused to release his golden chain even as the wheel pulled him toward rebirth as a starving wolf. His final human act a grotesque pantomime of the greed that damned him. Buddhist teachings infuse every aspect of this court. The wheel's 6 realms mirror the cycle of samsara, the endless loop of birth, death, and rebirth that can only be escaped through enlightenment. King Yuan doesn't control this cycle, he facilitates it, ensuring each soul lands where its karma dictates. A farmer who lived simply but kindly might find himself reborn into comfort, while a priest who exploited his flock could tumble into the animal realm, his next life spent as a beast of burden. Yet even this isn't permanent. The wheel keeps turning, offering infinite chances to ascend or fall. What makes the 10th court so profound is its quiet optimism. However harrowing the journey through Diyu has been, Yuan's domain whispers a tantalizing truth. No soul is trapped forever. The wheel grinds slowly, but it grinds fine, polishing rough edges over countless lifetimes until enlightenment finally cracks the cycle open. Bridges here bear inscriptions from the Lotus Sutra, their characters glowing faintly as if lit from within. All phenomena are transient, work diligently for your own liberation. As the last souls vanish into the wheel's glow, the air thrums with possibility. Somewhere beyond this shadowed realm, a child draws its first breath, its cries mingling with the wind. A seed splits open in dark soil, a bird takes flight over a dawn-lit river, and the great wheel turns endlessly, patiently, carrying within its revolutions every sorrow, every hope, and the stubborn, luminous promise that even in hell's deepest pit, rebirth waits like a bud clenched tight against winter's frost. In temple murals and ancient scrolls, Yan Wang cuts an unforgettable figure, a deity designed to command both terror and reverence at a glance. His face, often carved from wood or painted in vivid mineral pigments, twists into a perpetual scowl with bulging eyes that seem to track the viewer no matter where they stand. Bushy eyebrows arch like drawn swords above those piercing orbs, amplifying his unblinking scrutiny. But it's not just fury that shapes his features. There's a chilling precision in his expression, as if he's already tallying sins before a soul even speaks. His attire drips with symbolic power. Unlike the flowing silks of benevolent gods, Yan Wang's robes are stiff with embroidery dragons coiled around thunderclouds, waves frozen mid-crash, all stitched in threads of gold that catch the light like distant hellfires. A massive belt cinches his waist, its jade plaques carved with the names of the 10 courts, each one a reminder of the relentless machinery of justice he oversees. Crowns vary by region. Some temples show him with the flat-topped headdress of a Tang dynasty official, while others cap him with the jagged crown of the underworld, its points resembling flames or the teeth of some primordial beast. Then there's the judge's tablet, an object so central to his iconography that even the least detailed sketches include it. Made of darkened ivory or ebony, this rectangular slab bears the words life and death in stark characters, its surface often cracked from where he slammed it down to pronounce verdicts. Artists love depicting the moment it strikes his desk. Phantom smoke rises from the impact point, hinting at the supernatural weight of his decrees. Accessories complete the terrifying portrait. In his left hand, he might clutch the register of life and death, its pages fluttering unnaturally as if wind-tossed, except there's no wind in Diyu. At his feet, hellhounds bare teeth forged from black bronze, their eyes inlaid with chips of ruby that glow like coals. Some statues place a monstrous ink stone beside him, its well-filled not with ink but congealed blood, ready to record fresh sins in indelible scarlet. Yet for all his fearsome trappings, Yan Wang's depictions carry subtle clues to his dual nature. A 14th century mural in Shaanxi shows a single tear cutting through the cinnabar red paint of his cheek as he sentences a child murderer, a startling detail that humanizes the otherwise merciless judge. Other artworks tuck quiet symbols of compassion into his regalia, a lotus-shaped toggle on his sash or a pendant of guanyin hidden beneath his collar, reminders that even Hell's king answers to higher laws of balance. The genius of Yan Wang's iconography lies in its contradictions. Every element, from the gnarled fingers gripping his brush to the way his robes seem to ripple with invisible heat, serves a purpose. This isn't just art, it's psychological warfare. Before a single word is spoken, his visage transmits an unmistakable message. In this courtroom, there are no technicalities, no loopholes. Only the unflinching arithmetic of deeds weighed against consequences. And as the incense curls around his statues in 1,000 dim temple halls, one can almost hear the ghosts of the judged whispering the same truth. When faced with Yan Wang's gaze, even the boldest soul learns the meaning of fear. Yan Wang leaps from ancient scriptures into the vibrant chaos of Chinese opera with a theatrical flair that would make even the most seasoned performers tremble. On stage, his entrance is never subtle, a thunderclap of drums, a swirl of crimson robes, and a face painted in stark blacks and reds that seem to glow under the lantern lights. Opera portrayals amplify his duality. One moment a stern bureaucrat shuffling through scrolls, the next a roaring deity slamming his judge's tablet hard enough to shake the rafters. The classic Mulian rescues his mother, pits him against a filial monk battling hell's wrath to save a parent, showcasing Yan Wang not just as a punisher but as a cosmic obstacle testing devotion itself. Every exaggerated gesture, the way his sleeves snap like whips when he condemns a soul, or how his laughter echoes like cracking ice, transforms theology into gripping spectacle. Literature weaves his legend into narratives both sacred and subversive. In Journey to the West, Yan Wang's court becomes a punchline when the irrepressible monkey king Sun Wukong storms in, scratches his name from the register of life and death, and gleefully upends the cosmic order. Yet even this mischief carries deeper meaning by portraying a trickster defying Hell's king. The story subtly questions absolute authority while reaffirming its inevitability. Sun Wukong ultimately bows to Buddha's higher justice. Meanwhile, Ming Dynasty ghost stories like Strange Tales from a Chinese studio paint Yan Wang as an overworked administrator, his hell swamped with souls as corruption festered in the mortal realm. These tales humanize him, showing him exasperated by bureaucratic backlogs or moved by a spirit's poetic plea, layers rarely seen in temple iconography. Modern media reimagines him with startling creativity. Hong Kong horror films clad him in smoky noir lighting, his judges morphing into triad-style enforcers with flaming badges. Video games like Black Myth, Wukong render his underworld as a gothic labyrinth where players dodge animated torture devices. Even children's cartoons soften his edges, casting him as a stern but fair teacher who scolds naughty kids with lines like, "Shall we consult the register of bad behavior?" This adaptability reveals something profound. Yan Wang isn't frozen in scripture but evolves with society's fears. Where once he terrified farmers into moral living, now he critiques corporate greed in dystopian web novels, his judgments reflecting modern anxieties about unaccountable power. Yet through every incarnation, one thread remains unbroken: his role as the ultimate equalizer. Whether in a Tang Dynasty poem or a viral TikTok skit, Yan Wang endures because he embodies a universal truth. No empire, no cleverness, no wealth can shield you from the consequences of your choices. And perhaps that's why artists keep resurrecting him, not just to frighten, but to remind us that accountability, in whatever form we imagine it, is the price of being human. Every 7th month of the lunar calendar, when the veil between worlds grows thin, China's streets flicker with the glow of ghost money burning in iron barrels, a smoky homage to Yan Wang and the restless dead. The Hungry Ghost Festival transforms cities into open-air temples where families offer feasts to ancestors and strangers alike, their chopsticks laid across bowls of rice like bridges to the underworld. But this isn't mere tradition, it's a carefully choreographed negotiation with the King of Hell himself. Offerings aren't just gifts, they're diplomatic gestures, ensuring Yan Wang's ledger marks the living with favor when their time comes to stand before his throne. At temple ceremonies, priests chant sutras into the muggy night air, their voices weaving between the clatter of mahjong tiles and the sizzle of street food. Elaborate paper effigies, mansions, cars, even smartphones go up in flames, their ashes believed to materialize as real comforts in Diyu. The logic is mercilessly practical. A well-provisioned ghost is less likely to roam the earth causing mischief. But beneath the theatrics lies a deeper calculus. By feeding the hungry dead, the living subtly remind Yan Wang of their piety, their respect for the cosmic order he enforces. In some villages, elders still whisper that a generous ghost month offering might soften the blow of minor sins, like grease on the hinges of karmic scales. The festival's most striking ritual unfolds at water's edge. Lotus-shaped lanterns drift down rivers, their candle flames bobbing like drowning stars. Each light represents a soul guided safely through Diyu's maze, a plea to Yan Wang for leniency. In Taiwan, entire flotillas are launched, turning harbors into shimmering galaxies. The sight is beautiful, but the message is dire. These tiny fires are beacons in the darkness, a mortal's humble attempt to map a path through the terror of the 10 courts. Yet Yan Wang's worship isn't confined to ghostly appeasement. During Qingming festival, families scrub ancestral tombs and leave offerings directly tied to his mythology. Cups of tea symbolize the pool of forgetfulness, while rice cakes mirror the judge's tablet, their sticky surfaces holding imprints like celestial seals. Some Taoist sects perform the breaking hell ritual, where priests clad in golden robes symbolically shatter the gates of Diyu, demonstrating Yan Wang's own paradoxical nature, a jailer who permits temporary reprieves. Even in daily life, traces of his cult persist. Butchers in Fujian still pause on Yan Wang's birthday, their cleavers idle to avoid echoing the hell of dismemberment. Shopkeepers in Hong Kong keep miniature shrines behind their counters, stocked with red candles to ward off his clerks' audits. The most fascinating adaptation thrives in digital age. Young mourners now burn printed QR codes, trusting Yan Wang's bureaucracy will scan them into cloud-based afterlife accounts. What makes these rituals so enduring isn't just fear, it's the intimacy of the transaction. Yan Wang may rule a realm of nightmares, but his followers treat him like a stern relative, respected, appeased, even occasionally outwitted. The festivals distill a profound truth about Chinese spirituality, that the boundary between dread and devotion is as thin as rice paper, and that even the king of hell appreciates a well-timed bribe. The story of Mulian rescuing his mother from hell isn't just a tale of supernatural adventure, it's a seismic clash between filial devotion and the unyielding laws of the afterlife, with Yan Wang himself presiding as the ultimate arbiter. According to Buddhist scriptures, Mulian was no ordinary monk. Blessed with divine sight, he peered into the spirit world after his mother's death, only to find her trapped in the deepest bowels of Diyu, her emaciated form writhing in the hell of hungry ghosts. The reason, in life, she'd hoarded food while starving beggars clawed at her gates, her selfishness now repaid with an eternal craving that could never be satisfied. Mulian's desperation drives him to do the unthinkable. He descends into hell itself, armed with nothing but a monk's staff and a son's love. The underworld trembles as he passes through each court, his prayers scattering demon guards like leaves in a storm. But when he finally reaches Yan Wang's throne, the king of hell doesn't applaud his bravery. Instead, he becomes the ultimate test. Yan Wang's verdict is chillingly simple. Filial piety may move mountains, but it cannot erase karma. No matter how many tears Mulian sheds, his mother's punishments are just the cosmic scales cannot be unbalanced, even by love. What follows is one of Chinese folklore's most breathtaking displays of determination. Denied a direct pardon, Mulian embarks on a pilgrimage that reshapes Buddhist tradition itself. He consults the Buddha, who reveals that only collective merit can break his mother's chains. So Mulian orchestrates the first ghost festival, a day when monks across China chant sutras. Families offer feasts to wandering spirits, and the living pour compassion into the underworld like a lifeline. The combined spiritual energy finally cracks open the hell of hungry ghosts, and Mulian's mother emerges not through force, but through the transformative power of shared redemption. Yan Wang's role in this legend is masterfully ambiguous. He isn't the villain, he's the unshakable guardian of cosmic law, the immovable object against which Mulian's devotion proves its worth. Their confrontation reveals a startling truth about Diyu's justice system. Even the king of hell acknowledges that some bonds transcend punishment. The festival Mulian founded still echoes today, every flickering lantern, and burned ghost money, a testament to the idea that love, when multiplied across countless souls, can soften even the hardest edges of fate. The tale's brilliance lies in its layers. On one level, it's a supernatural odyssey, a monk battling hell beasts. On another, it's a theological argument about individual versus collective responsibility. But at its core, it's about the most human of questions. How far would you go for someone you love? Yan Wang's verdict forces Mulian to realize that salvation can't be stolen. It must be earned, not just through personal sacrifice, but by moving an entire world toward compassion. In the end, even the king of hell bows to that. Yan Wang may rule the underworld with unshakable authority, but even the king of hell answers to a higher power, the Jade Emperor, the radiant sovereign who presides over heaven and earth from his celestial throne. Their relationship isn't one of rivalry, but of intricate cosmic balance, a carefully choreographed division of divine labor that keeps the machinery of existence turning. Where the Jade Emperor governs life, creation, and the boundless heavens, Yan Wang administers death, judgment, and the meticulous accounting of souls. Think of them as two sides of the same cosmic coin, one bathed in golden light, the other cloaked in shadow, yet both essential to the equilibrium of the universe. The Jade Emperor's court is a realm of celestial diplomacy, immortals sipping peach wine, dragons weaving through clouds, and endless scrolls recording the fortunes of mortals. His edicts shape dynasties and weather patterns, his benevolence raining down like monsoon showers on parched fields. Yan Wang's domain, by contrast, runs on bureaucratic precision. His halls echo with the clatter of abacuses tallying sins, the scratch of brushes in ledgers, the rhythmic thud of his judge's tablet sealing fates. While the Jade Emperor watches over the grand tapestry of existence, Yan Wang handles the tangled threads one by one, ensuring each soul's actions weave into the greater pattern of karma. Yet this isn't a simple hierarchy. Ancient texts depict their dynamic more like a partnership between a CEO and his most feared executive. The Jade Emperor sets cosmic policy, the laws of morality, the cycles of rebirth, but delegates the messy work of enforcement to Yan Wang. Folktales reveal subtle tensions. In one Ming dynasty story, the Jade Emperor pardons a wrongly condemned scholar, only for Yan Wang to protest that mercy undermines the underworld's deterrence. Their compromise, the scholar is reincarnated with a prodigy's intellect, a solution satisfying both celestial justice and bureaucratic pride. The differences between them crystallize in their iconography. The Jade Emperor appears serene in flowing golden robes, his face radiating calm omniscience, often flanked by phoenixes symbolizing renewal. Yan Wang's statues snarl with bulging eyes, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of fearful touches, his regalia adorned with hooks and chains that clatter like unsettled ghosts. Where the Jade Emperor's temples smell of sandalwood and blooming lotuses, Yan Wang's shrines reek of burnt paper and the metallic tang of hell money ink. Philosophically, they represent complementary forces. Taoist texts describe the Jade Emperor as the source of yang, active, expansive energy that births stars and spins seasons. Yan Wang embodies yin, the necessary pull toward dissolution and reckoning, the shadow that gives light its meaning. Neither could function without the other. A universe without judgment would descend into chaos, just as a cosmos without mercy would freeze into tyranny. Even their celestial paperwork reflects this balance. The Jade Emperor's decrees are written in flowing calligraphy on silk, while Yan Wang's verdicts are stamped in vermilion ink, their characters sharp as blade strokes. Modern worship practices underscore their interdependence. During Lunar New Year, families bow to the Jade Emperor for prosperity, then whisper prayers to Yan Wang to overlook old sins. Funeral rites often include burning two petitions, one addressed to Heaven's court, the other to Hell's registry, acknowledging that dying well requires pleasing both powers. Some temple murals show them standing back to back, one facing the sunlit mortal world, the other gazing into the abyss, their shared vision encompassing all realms. The genius of their duality lies in its flexibility. Over centuries, as Buddhism absorbed Taoist cosmology and folk traditions merged with state religion, their roles adapted without contradiction. The Jade Emperor remained the compassionate father figure, while Yan Wang became the stern teacher who makes sure no lesson goes unlearned. Together, they offer a profound answer to humanity's oldest questions about fairness and fate. That order isn't imposed from a single throne, but negotiated between light and darkness, between the giver of life and the enforcer of its consequences. While Yan Wang presides over a meticulously organized bureaucratic hell, his counterparts in other mythologies reveal just how distinct Chinese afterlife beliefs truly are. Take Hades, the Greek lord of the underworld, a brooding figure who rules over shadows in a realm of passive gloom. Where Hades' domain is a static void where souls fade into obscurity, Yan Wang's Diyu thrums with purpose, its 10 courts operating like a celestial factory of moral reckoning. The Greek afterlife cares little for justice. Heroes and villains alike wander the asphodel meadows in dull equality, unless they're lucky or cursed enough for Elysium or Tartarus. But in Yan Wang's realm, no soul slips through the cracks each deed. Each intention is catalogued, weighed, and repaid with terrifying precision. Move south to Egypt, and Osiris offers another striking contrast. Both he and Yan Wang judge the dead, but their methods could hardly be more different. Osiris leans on his feather of Maat, a single, symbolic way in of the heart against truth. Yan Wang employs entire libraries of ledgers, with clerks tallying sins down to the most trivial gossip. Where Osiris' judgment is swift and final, Yan Wang's process unfolds through agonizing stages, each court refining the soul like metal in a forge. Even their visual symbolism diverges. Osiris, green-skinned and wrapped like a mummy, represents cyclical rebirth. Yan Wang's crimson-faced fury embodies the unrelenting machinery of moral consequence. The Norse hell presents perhaps the most jarring difference. A half-rotted goddess ruling over a freezing wasteland. She doesn't judge. She merely receives the dead who didn't die gloriously in battle. Her realm isn't about justice, it's about chilly oblivion. Compare that to Diyu's hyperactive tormentors, its educational tortures designed to mold better reincarnations. While Hell's Hall is a final destination, Yan Wang's hell is more like a brutally efficient reform school, every lash of the demon guard's whips intended to scour away imperfections before the soul's next life. Even Yama, Yan Wang's Indian progenitor, diverges sharply in practice. Hindu and Buddhist traditions spread Yama across multiple incarnations, sometimes a compassionate guide, other times a fearful enforcer. But Yan Wang consolidated into a singular, unwavering symbol of bureaucratic infallibility, reflecting China's imperial governance. Where Yama might show flexibility, Yan Wang's judgments are as immovable as a mountain, his courts operating with the rigid efficiency of a Tang dynasty ministry. These contrasts reveal a cultural fingerprint. The Chinese underworld isn't just about punishment, it's a moral accounting system that mirrors the precision of celestial bureaucracy. While Western death gods often represent endings and others like Osiris symbolize renewal, Yan Wang occupies a unique middle ground, neither end nor beginning, but an inescapable audit station where every life must balance its karmic books before continuing the cycle. This obsession with meticulous justice speaks volumes. In a civilization that gave the world civil service, exams, and merit-based governance, even the afterlife runs on paperwork. The punishments of Diyu aren't just torments, they're morality plays carved into the flesh of the damned, each agonizing moment designed to imprint Confucian duty, Buddhist compassion, and Taoist balance onto the soul. Take the hell of the Mountain of Knives, where corrupt officials climb endless blades. At first glance, it seems simple retribution, but unpack the symbolism. The mountain's impossible ascent mirrors the virtuous path of governance, steep, painful, yet necessary. The knives, they're the people's suffering, turned back on those who ignored it. This is Confucianism weaponized, filial piety inverted. For if a ruler betrays his role as parent of the people, he learns what happens when children rebel against neglect. Buddhist mercy hides in the torture's temporality. Unlike Western hell's eternal damnation, Diyu's horrors have expiration dates. A murderer might drown in the pool of blood for centuries, but eventually the waters spit them out toward rebirth. This reflects Buddhism's radical premise: no soul is irredeemable, only unfinished. Even the Book of Life and Death, seemingly rigid in its tallies, contains margin notes where virtuous acts can commute sentences. A folktale tells of a bandit who shielded a child during his crimes. Yan Wang's clerks discover this footnote, reducing his time in the hell of dismemberment by 50 years. The message, final judgment, isn't about tallying sins but measuring the weight of conscience. Taoism's influence emerges in the poetic symmetry of punishments. A glutton forced to eat molten gold experiences the Taoist principle of reversal. What was indulgence becomes agony. The bureaucratic hellscape itself mirrors Taoist cosmology. Just as the celestial bureaucracy governs stars and seasons, Yan Wang's courts administer moral physics where every action generates equal reaction. Even minor sins receive attention, reflecting the Taoist belief that neglecting small faults breeds great chaos. A Ming dynasty parable warns of a scholar who laughed at beggars. In death, he stood chained in the court of wind, his mocking words whipped back into his throat by gales until he choked on their bitterness. These lessons weren't abstract, they shaped living behavior. Parents invoked Yan Wang's name when teaching children to respect elders, knowing the threat of the hell of ungrateful children carried more weight than any scolding. Merchants wary of the hell of the balance beam where dishonest traders are hung from their own scales kept honest weights. Even emperors feared the register of life and death's omniscience. Song dynasty archives record a prime minister who burned his tax evasion records after dreaming of Yan Wang's scribes copying them. The underworld's moral calculus became society's invisible scaffold, its horrors reinforcing that no act, however hidden, escaped the universe's ledger. Yet the system's true brilliance lies in its flexibility. A farmer who stole bread to feed his family might face the hell of hunger, but his sentence could be lightened by evidence of prior generosity. This nuanced justice reflected real-world dilemmas, acknowledging that morality isn't black and white. Temple murals often show Yan Wang consulting multiple scrolls, the rigid legal code of sin, but also the fluid scroll of mitigating circumstances. The result was a belief system that terrified but also comforted. If even hell's king recognized life's complexities, perhaps the universe wasn't entirely merciless after all. Modern psychologists might call this traumatic learning, branding moral lessons into the subconscious through fear. But Yan Wang's pedagogy went deeper. By making punishments metaphoric echoes of crimes, he ensured souls didn't just suffer but understood. A corrupt judge who once took bribes to tilt verdicts spends centuries trapped in a courtroom where the walls scream conflicting testimonies. The torture isn't the noise, it's the irreversible realization that his corruption created this cacophony in countless lives. The lesson sticks because it's felt, not just heard. This fusion of pedagogy and pain made Diyu uniquely effective as a cultural teaching tool. While European hellfire sermons provoked terror, Chinese hell paintings and operas invited analysis, each punishment a puzzle to decode, each screaming figure a cautionary tale with layers of meaning. A starving ghost's swollen belly wasn't just grotesque. It visualized the Taoist concept of imbalance, where taking too much leaves one perpetually empty. Even the aesthetics taught morality. The underworld's meticulous record-keeping mirrored the Confucian ideal that a well-ordered society depends on accountability at every level, from emperor to peasant. Perhaps the most enduring legacy is how these judgments bridged spiritual and societal justice. When famine struck or corrupt officials prospered, the living could trust that Yan Wang's ledgers would eventually balance what mortal courts failed to address. This wasn't escapism, it was a demand for patience and faith in cosmic order. The hells functioned as the ultimate checks and balances system, their existence a reminder that no earthly power, no matter how unchecked, operated beyond the reach of consequence. And in a civilization where history cycled through dynasties rising and falling like breaths, that promise, that all accounts would someday be settled, may have been the most stabilizing force of all. Behind every great king stands an army of enforcers, and Yan Wang's underworld bureaucracy is no exception. While the King of Hell commands the 10 courts with terrifying authority, the day-to-day operations of Diyu depend on a host of lesser-known but equally fascinating figures. each specializing in their own macabre corner of the afterlife's workflow. At the front lines are Hai Wu Cheng and Bai Wu Cheng, the black and white impermanents, twin enforcers whose very names hint at their grim purpose. Clad in flowing robes of ink black and funeral white, these soul collectors roam the mortal realm, their arrival signaled by the faint jingle of iron chains and the sudden chill of a grave's shadow. The black and white impermanents aren't mere bounty hunters, they're cosmic bailiffs, tasked with ensuring souls arrive punctually for their karmic audits. Bai Wu Cheng, the white-robed figure with a tongue lolling grotesquely from his grinning mouth, represents the inevitability of death's suddenness, often appearing to those who meet abrupt ends. His counterpart, Hai Wu Cheng, scowls beneath a tall hat inscribed with order in the court, embodying death's slower, more methodical inevitability, the wasting illness, the creeping decay of age. Together, they form a dual reminder, whether swift or gradual, no soul escapes their summons. Folktales describe their methods with chilling specificity. A fisherman who mocked death might find his boat capsized by an unseen hand, only to surface gasping into Bai Wu Cheng's clammy grip, while a corrupt magistrate who evaded earthly justice could awaken to Hai Wu Cheng's chain coiled around his throat like a noose. Yet even these feared enforcers answer to a higher tier of record keepers. The ox-head and horse-faced demons, their monstrous visages a grotesque fusion of human and beast, serve as hell's jailers, herding souls between courtrooms and torture chambers with bovine patience and equine swiftness. Don't let their bestial appearances fool you. These creatures wield encyclopedic knowledge of the underworld's legal codes. A soul attempting to flee might find ox heads glaive at their back, its blade etched with the very statute they violated, while horse faces whip cracks with the precision of a scribe's pen, each lash correcting a moral imbalance. Then there are the scribes of the Register of Life and Death Pale, ink-stained bureaucrats who record every heartbeat of existence. Unlike the flamboyant tormentors of Diyu's courts, these clerks work in eerie silence, their brushes flying across scrolls that never end. Their ledgers don't merely tally sins, they contextualize them. A minor theft committed to feed a starving child might be annotated with mitigating brushstrokes, while an act of charity performed for vanity could be circled in skeptical vermilion. Some temple murals show these scribes with eyes covered by thin silk, a symbolic nod to their impartiality, blind to wealth or status, concerned only with the weight of deeds. The most intriguing of Yan Wang's aides might be the judges of the Four Seasons, lesser-known figures who oversee the temporal aspects of death. Spring Judge ensures souls who perished in youth receive appropriate sentencing, their punishments often laced with lessons about potential squandered. Summer Judge handles those cut down in their prime, their penalties reflecting squandered vigor. Autumn Judge presides over the middle-aged, while Winter Judge shepherds the elderly, his sentencing tempered with the wisdom of years. This seasonal division reveals the underworld's nuanced understanding of mortality, a recognition that a life stage shapes its moral calculus. What unites these diverse figures is their role as extensions of Yan Wang's unflinching vision. The black and white impermanents enforce deadlines, the beastly jailers maintain order, the scribes document truth, and the seasonal judges contextualize it all. Together, they transform Diyu from a mere pit of suffering into a precision instrument of karmic realignment, one where every scream, every tear, every moment of repentance is carefully recorded, weighed, and folded into the grand design of cosmic justice. The legends of Yan Wang shift like smoke across China's vast landscape. What's absolute truth in a Fujian temple might be heresy in a Sichuan village. In coastal regions, fishermen whisper of a Yan Wang who commands typhoons, his judge's tablet cracking like thunder to sink unrepentant pirates. Meanwhile, Silk Road oasis towns depict him with ica features, his hell guarded by camel-headed demons carrying not abacuses but desert hourglasses measuring karmic debts. These regional quirks aren't mere flourishes, They reveal how local anxieties mold even the King of Hell. After a 17th century epidemic in Hangzhou, temple murals suddenly showed Yan Wang wearing a physician's robe, his clerks swapping scrolls for pestle and mortar, a proof that communities refashion their gods to confront new terrors. Dive into Buddhist texts and Yan Wang becomes more bureaucrat than tyrant, a stern but fair middle manager in the cosmic corporation of samsara. Here, his 10 courts operate like spiritual rehabilitation centers, each torture calibrated to excise specific moral flaws before rebirth. Contrast this with Taoist portrayals, where he's a celestial enforcer wielding the mandate of heaven like a flaming sword. A 12th century Taoist scroll shows him decapitating a corrupt emperor's soul with a single brushstroke, the ink transforming into chains that drag the screaming spirit downward. The difference: Buddhism's Yan Wang seeks enlightenment for all beings. Taoism's version embodies the impersonal Tao's ruthless balance. Folk traditions explode these frameworks entirely. In Shaanxi's shadow puppetry, Yan Wang frequently gets outwitted. A clever peasant tricks him into drinking fake judgment wine, buying time to rescue an innocent soul. These comedic twists humanize him, transforming the cosmic judge into a character who can be negotiated with, even temporarily bested. Some village operas go further, suggesting Yan Wang himself must answer to the Jade Emperor's audits, showing that no authority, however absolute, operates beyond scrutiny. The most striking variations emerge in syncretic traditions where Buddhism, Taoism, and folk beliefs collide. Taiwanese underworld temples often feature a startling triad, Yan Wang flanked by both the Bodhisattva Ksatagarbha and the Taoist city god. Ksatagarbha's presence softens the scene, his vow to empty hell introducing mercy into Yan Wang's rigid justice. Meanwhile, the city god acts as a local liaison, ensuring underworld verdicts respect community values. It's a theological compromise as intricate as any mortal courtroom deal. These contradictions aren't flaws, they're proof of the myth's vitality. Like a river carving new channels, Yan Wang's story adapts to water whatever landscape it flows through. A Cantonese rice farmer might envision hell's tortures as endless transplanting under a scorching sun, while a Mongolian herder fears being trampled by spectral sheep. Yet beneath these surface differences thrums a unifying principle, that actions have consequences and no soul, however clever or powerful, cheats the ledger forever. The variations don't weaken Yan Wang's authority, they prove his terrifying adaptability across centuries and cultures. After all, a king of hell who cannot shape-shift to reflect every sinner's deepest fears is no king at all. Even in today's hyper-modern cities where skyscrapers blot out the stars, Yan Wang's shadow lingers not as ancient myth, but as a living presence woven into the fabric of daily life. Step into a Hong Kong funeral parlor, and you'll find mourners burning intricate paper replicas of smartphones and luxury cars, their flames curling into smoke meant to reach the underworld's bureaucratic offices. These aren't empty rituals, they're calculated negotiations with hell's administration, ensuring the departed have the right paperwork and bribes to ease their passage through Yan Wang's courts. The logic is disarmingly practical. In a world run on connections, why should the afterlife be any different? Superstitions thrive in the unlit corners of progress. Taiwanese construction crews still hire Taoist priests to perform hell-breaking ceremonies before breaking ground, appeasing Yan Wang's clerks so they don't claim accidental deaths as preordained quotas. Shanghai's finance bros whisper about avoiding the number 4, its pronunciation resembling death not out of vague fear, but because it might flag their names in the underworld's digital ledgers. Even childbirth carries echoes of Diyu. Some grandmothers in rural Hebei still tie red strings around newborns' wrists, a tangible receipt to prove to hell's census takers that this soul has legally returned to the living world. The king of hell's influence stretches beyond tradition into pop psychology. When corrupt officials suddenly donate ill-gotten wealth or tycoons fund hospitals after near-death experiences, tabloids joke they've had pre-trial meetings with Yan Wang's prosecutors. True or not, the trope sticks because it reflects a deep cultural truth that moral accounting is inevitable, if not in this life, then in the next. A viral social media trend in Guangzhou saw young people posting karmic balance sheets, humorously offsetting late-night burger binges with donations to stray animal shelters, #Yan Wang audit. Perhaps most striking is how technology has adapted to these age-old beliefs. Apps now digitize ghost money transfers with QR codes linking to virtual burn offerings. One developer even created Underworld Yelp, where users rate their deceased relatives' satisfaction with afterlife services, a darkly comic nod to Yan Wang's bureaucratic reputation. Yet beneath the satire lies genuine anxiety. In a world where data is forever, the idea of an unerasable cosmic record feels uncomfortably plausible. The endurance of these beliefs isn't about clinging to the past, it's about navigating uncertainty. When a pandemic empties streets or an earthquake crushes buildings, the old rituals resurface not as superstition, but as psychological armor. Burning hell money becomes a way to assert control when the world feels chaotic. Avoiding the number 4 transforms into a tiny act of defiance against fate's randomness. Yan Wang endures because he offers something neither science nor capitalism can: the promise that no suffering is meaningless and no evil goes unpunished. In the glow of a smartphone lighting joss paper, the ancient and the modern find common ground, a shared language of fear, hope, and the unshakable sense that somewhere in realms unseen, the ledgers are always being filled. Yan Wang's throne isn't just a seat of judgment, it's the axis on which an entire philosophy of justice turns. For centuries, his legend has served as both warning and comfort, a reminder that no soul escapes the ledger of its deeds, yet no evil is beyond redemption. In a world where mortal courts can be bribed and emperors fall to corruption, the King of Hell endures as the ultimate equalizer, his scales untipped by wealth or status. But his legacy stretches far beyond fear. Diyu's tortures, as grotesque as they seem, reflect something profound: the belief that suffering isn't meaningless, that every lash of the demon's whip carves a soul closer to its better self. This isn't just punishment, it's the universe's brutal way of teaching balance. Look at how Yan Wang permeates modern life. From courtroom murals reminding judges of divine accountability to parents invoking his name when teaching children honesty, his influence is everywhere. Ghost festival offerings and temple rituals keep his legend alive, but so do subtler echoes: the unease we feel when cheating a system, the quiet relief when karma seems to balance the books. Even in secular circles, the idea of Yan Wang's ledger persists as shorthand for inescapable consequences. His myth taps into a universal hunger for fairness, for the assurance that somewhere, somehow, the wicked don't prosper indefinitely. What makes Yan Wang truly fascinating isn't just his power, it's his duality. He's both feared and revered, a tyrant and a teacher. Temples depict him with a tear streaking one cheek even as he condemns a soul, capturing the paradox of necessary cruelty. This complexity mirrors life itself. Justice isn't always kind, and kindness isn't always just. His courts acknowledge that morality is rarely black and white, offering punishments tailored to circumstance, not just crime. A starving thief might receive lighter sentencing than a gluttonous noble, revealing a system that judges intent as harshly as action. The cultural ripple effects are staggering. Yan Wang's mythology shaped Chinese legal systems, inspired art and opera, even influenced business practices. Merchants once kept honest scales not just for reputation, but fear of the hell of the balance beam. His blend of Confucian order, Buddhist compassion, and Taoist balance created a uniquely Chinese vision of the afterlife, one that comforted as it terrified. Where Western hells offer only damnation, Diyu holds out the possibility of rebirth, of lessons learned and debts repaid. This isn't eternal wrath, it's the universe's stern curriculum. Now we turn to you. What folklore creatures or underworld myths from your culture share Yan Wang's themes? Have you encountered his legend in unexpected places? A film, a game, a whispered family superstition? Drop your stories below. After all, myths breathe when we retell them. And if you've ever wondered how other cultures envision divine justice, from Anubis feather scales to hell's frozen wastes, let us know. The afterlife's borders are vast, but curiosity, that's boundless. Until next time, may your virtues outweigh your sins, and may your name stay far from Yan Wang's dreaded legend.